Ever wondered if the moon landing in 1969 was an elaborate hoax or an unprecedented triumph? It's a question that has been debated for over 5 decades now, ever since Neil Armstrong took that one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. There are those who hold it as one of humanity's greatest achievements, while others, fueled by doubt and distrust, dismiss it as nothing more than a Cold War-era fabrication. This debate isn't just a clash of opinions, but a collision of facts, theories, and interpretations. Was the flag fluttering in an airless environment? Were the shadows inconsistent with a single light source? What about the absence of stars in the photographs? Questions upon questions. Mysteries wrapped in enigmas. To understand this controversy, we must journey back in time, revisiting the events leading up to that historic day in July of 1969. Today we will take a detailed look at the events of the Apollo 11 mission. Buckle up, it's going to be a fascinating ride. July 16, 1969, a date etched in history. This was the day when Apollo 11, a spacecraft like no other, thundered into the sky from the Kennedy Space Center. It was a spectacle of human ambition, a testament to our insatiable curiosity. On board were 3 brave astronauts, each with a crucial role to play. Neil Armstrong, a seasoned test pilot, was the mission commander. His cool, collected demeanor was a perfect match for the daunting task at hand. Buzz Aldrin, the lunar module pilot, was a doctor of science, his intellect rivaled only by his courage. And then, there was Michael Collins, the command module pilot, the unsung hero who would orbit the moon alone, while his colleagues made history on the lunar surface. These were the men chosen to represent humanity on this unprecedented journey. And so, the journey to the moon began. Apollo 11's journey to the moon was no ordinary expedition. The distance between Earth and its celestial companion averages about 238,855 miles. That's roughly 10 times the circumference of our planet. The vessel carrying Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins had to traverse this vast expanse of space, a journey that required both precision navigation and unwavering courage. So, how long did this voyage take? The astronauts launched from Kennedy Space Center on July 16, 1969, and reached the moon's orbit on July 19. That's a total of 76 hours. Imagine that, less than 4 days to travel nearly 250,000 miles. But the journey was far from a simple straight-line sprint. The spacecraft had to follow a carefully calculated trajectory, known as a Hohmann transfer orbit, to efficiently use fuel and ensure the crew's safe arrival. This path created a curve that increased in speed as the craft approached the moon. And let's not forget the host of challenges our astronauts faced. The harmful radiation of space, potential mechanical failures, and the psychological strain of such a journey were real and present dangers. But these brave individuals pressed onward, propelled by the collective hopes and dreams of all humankind. After a journey of 76 hours, they were in the moon's orbit, but the mission was far from over. The most critical and controversial phase was yet to come, the moon landing. The moment of truth was here, the moon landing. A hush fell over the world as the lunar module, affectionately known as Eagle, touched down on the Sea of Tranquility. The date was July 20, 1969. The time was 20:17 Coordinated Universal Time. The collective breath the world had been holding was finally released. Man had reached the moon. Inside the lunar module, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin prepared for their historic moonwalk. The world watched with bated breath as Armstrong, clad in his bulky white suit, descended the ladder attached to the lunar module. Upon setting foot on the powdery lunar surface, he uttered the famous phrase that would echo through the ages, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Armstrong, followed by Aldrin, planted the American flag into the lunar soil, a symbol of victory in the space race that had gripped the world throughout the 60s. The astronauts also left a plaque on the leg of their lunar module. It read, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon. July 1969, AD, we came in peace for all mankind." The moonwalk was not just about planting flags and leaving plaques. Astronauts Armstrong and Aldrin performed a series of experiments, collecting lunar soil and rock samples. They installed instruments to measure seismic activity and the lunar atmosphere. These experiments provided invaluable data about the moon, paving the way for future lunar explorations. The astronauts also communicated directly with President Richard Nixon in what was dubbed the longest-distance phone call in history. This communication symbolized the unity of humankind, despite the vast physical distance between the moon and Earth. After spending 21.5 hours on the lunar surface, it was time for the journey back. The lunar module ascended from the moon, leaving behind footprints and tire tracks that, undisturbed by wind or water, would remain for millennia. The Eagle had landed, and now it was time for it to fly back home. The moon landing was a testament to human achievement, a symbol of our insatiable quest for knowledge and exploration. After spending 21.5 hours on the lunar surface, it was time for the journey back. The mission was only half accomplished. The crew had to return safely. This was the stark reality facing the astronauts of Apollo. Having made the audacious journey to the moon, they were now tasked with the equally daunting challenge of returning home to Earth. On July 21st, the lunar module, carrying the brave astronauts, lifted off from the moon's surface. A crucial maneuver, the liftoff had to be flawless. There was no room for error. The module ascended, leaving behind the lunar module descent stage, a silent testament to humanity's first visit to another celestial body. The lunar module then rendezvoused with the command module, still in lunar orbit. This was a delicate dance, a ballet choreographed with mathematical precision. Once docked, the astronauts transferred back to the command module, their lunar chariot jettisoned, left to orbit the moon. With the crew safely aboard the command module, the journey back to Earth began. The command module, powered by the service module, fired its engine, propelling our intrepid explorers on their homeward trajectory. The journey, covering nearly 240,000 miles, took just over 3 days. On July 24th, the command module re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. This was perhaps the most perilous part of the journey. The spacecraft had to hit a narrow window to avoid burning up or bouncing off the atmosphere. As the module pierced the atmosphere, it was enveloped in a fiery plasma, cutting off all communication. A tense silence fell over mission control. Finally, after several long minutes, communication was re-established. The module had survived re-entry. 3 parachutes unfurled, slowing the descent, guiding the module gently towards the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Splashdown! The module bobbed gently on the ocean waves, the astronauts safe within. A recovery team already on standby quickly secured the module and retrieved the astronauts. With their safe return, the mission was a success. Our moonwalkers were home, having journeyed further than any human before them. Their return marked not just the successful completion of an incredible mission, but a giant leap for mankind. Despite the success, doubts and conspiracy theories started to emerge. In the aftermath of the moon landing, a wave of skepticism swept across the globe. Some began to question the authenticity of the event, suggesting that it might have been an elaborate hoax staged by the US government to assert dominance in the Cold War-era space race. They pointed to alleged anomalies in the footage, such as shadows appearing in different directions, the absence of stars in the lunar sky, or the flag appearing to ripple in the moon's vacuum. On the flip side, proponents of the moon landing argue that these so-called anomalies can be easily explained by the unique conditions on the lunar surface and the technology used at the time. They point to a wealth of evidence supporting the landing, such as the thousands of photographs, samples of moon rock brought back to Earth, and testimonies of the astronauts themselves, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of people involved in the mission who would have had to keep the secret. Moreover, independent entities, including the Soviet Union, tracked the Apollo missions. It would have been nearly impossible for the US to fake the landing without being caught by other nations. Nevertheless, the controversy surrounding the moon landing persists, fueled by a mixture of mistrust, misinformation, and the human penchant for mystery. The debate continues, with believers and skeptics presenting their arguments. So, did we really land on the moon? We've journeyed through the launch, the voyage, the landing, and the return, all while examining the controversy that surrounds this monumental event. The evidence, from the precise science of the launch to the tangible moon rocks brought back to Earth, provides a compelling case for the reality of the moon landing. We've also delved into the claims of the skeptics, the shadows and flags, the missing stars, and the Van Allen radiation belts. But science has answered these questions too, with explanations grounded in physics and astronomy. In the end, it's not just about the facts and figures, the images and recordings, it's about the human endeavor, the courage to venture into the unknown, the spirit of exploration that propels us beyond our earthly boundaries. Perhaps the truth lies not just in the facts, but also in our willingness to believe in the extraordinary.